Tuko live. We are coming to you live from Star of Hope Primary School. This is a place that the area member of parliament built
secondary sasa mtaongea mambo yenu, mimi sijui. Mimi mwaletea mgeni. Yangu leo tu kuangalia. Lete sisi kiti hapa. No, sika. Ndio plan ya serikali kwa. Ndio plan ya serikali. Sababu kwa heshima. Huyo anaitwa
Jinga. We are coming to you live from Star of Hope Primary School. This is a place that the area member of parliament built Tuko live.
Tuendelee kumpongeza kwa makofi Mheshimiwa Daktari William Ruto. $25. Sound check. Sound. 25. Sound check. Sound check on 2. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Tusonge kando kidogo wananchi, ili tuweze kupisha msafara anapojiunga nasi Mheshimiwa Daktari William Ruto, rais wetu siku ya leo kwa ajili ya masuala ya maendeleo. Karibu Mheshimiwa Rais siku ya leo katika eneo hili, eneo wakilishi bunge hapa Kangemi. Nilivyoomba wananchi, baada ya Mheshimiwa Rais kuingia kwenye bridge, tutasalia hapa tu ili aweze kurejea kuzungumza nasi. Welcome Your Excellency. Tuendelee kumkaribisha Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya kwa makofi mazuri anapojiunga nasi hapa, wananchi wa Kangemi. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Rais, ikiwa ni katika wakati wa kutathmini maendeleo hapa Kangemi. Tuendelee kumpongeza kwa makofi Mheshimiwa Daktari William Ruto. Tuendelee kumpongeza anapojiunga nasi. Kwanza ataendelea katika kuangalia mradi, kisha atazungumza nasi. Karibu Mheshimiwa Rais. Vile niliwaomba wananchi ni kwamba Mheshimiwa Rais kwanza atafanya inspection na kisha kwa heshima yake na ruhusa yake atakuja kutuzungumzia. Wananchi karibu sasa, Mheshimiwa Rais anajiunga nasi. Karibu sana siku ya leo Mheshimiwa Daktari William Ruto hapa Kangemi. Kwanza ataelekea katika inspection kisha kuzungumza nasi. Karibu Mheshimiwa Rais. Niombe viongozi tusalie tu hapa, viongozi. Sound check. Ili tumpe rais nafasi ya kwenda inspection kisha tarudi mahali hapa. Welcome. Tutarudi hapo. Sound check. Uko ready? Wakati huu Mheshimiwa Rais ataelekezwa kwenye ramani ya kazi ambayo inaendelea sehemu hii. Kwa hivyo nitamwelekeza Director General wetu Bwana Ndungu ili aweze kuendelea. Karibu Diki.
What is the meaning
baada ya Mheshimiwa Rais kuelekeza kwenye ramani ya jinsi ambavyo mradi huu unaendelea, ataelekeza kwa safari fupi ili kuweza kuangalia jinsi kazi hii inavyofanywa, na kisha baadaye kurejea na kuja kuzungumza nasi wananchi. Kwa hivyo tuwe watulivu tunaposubiri kurejea kwake Mheshimiwa Rais kuja kuzungumza nasi.
Haya, tuende hiyo side nyingine hiyo. Wewe rudi nyuma. Twende huko. Utapika na nyuma.
Kama njia moja ya kuhakikisha kwamba miundo msingi inaendelea vizuri.
Principles of democracy and human rights. My name is Muremi Basilio, the National Youth Leader of the People's Liberation Party. The People's Liberation Party Youth League strongly condemns the violence, police brutality, and lawlessness witnessed during President William Ruto's tour of Nairobi. What was meant to be a democratic engagement turned into scenes of chaos, leaving innocent Kenyans brutalized, property destroyed, and a life lost. The PLP is appalled by reports that law enforcement officers, rather than ensuring public safety, resorted to excessive force, beating up innocent youths whose only crime was exercising their democratic right to assemble and express themselves. The blatant police brutality witnessed in Kibra on Wednesday is unacceptable and goes against the fundamental principles of democracy and human rights. We are further outraged that the president's motorcade was involved in an incident that tragically resulted in the loss of life. Every Kenyan life is precious, and such recklessness must not be swept under the rug. We demand a thorough and transparent investigation into the circumstances of the fatality and immediate compensation for the affected family. The unchecked actions of criminals who looted businesses and robbed motorists while law enforcement stood idle highlight the government's blatant failure in upholding law and order. The double standards in justice, where innocent citizens are subjected to brutality while actual offenders operate with impunity, are not only unacceptable, but a grave betrayal to the Kenyan people. We urge our fellow youth to resist engaging in such unlawful acts, despite the economic hardships and unemployment challenges we are facing today. Let us all remember our fellow citizens who are also victims of these rogue regime's policies deserve our solidarity rather than suffering at our hands. As the PLP Youth League, these are our demands. Number 1, immediate arrest and prosecution of all those responsible for the violence, including the rogue police officers who beat up innocent youths in Kibra and criminals who looted businesses and terrorized motorists. Number 2, justice and compensation for the victims of police brutality and the family of the deceased individual. Number 3, an independent investigation into the excessive use of force by the police and a commitment to hold those responsible accountable. Number 4, respect for the rule of law and human rights, ensuring that all Kenyans can exercise their democratic freedoms without fear of violence or intimidation. The events in Kibra and Nairobi at large are a stark reminder that the struggle for justice, accountability, and democracy is far from over. The PLP Youth League stands firm in demanding fairness, transparency, and governance system that upholds the rights and dignity of all Kenyans. We all call upon progressive forces to join us in condemning these injustices and ensuring that those responsible are held to account. The People's Liberation Party remains steadfast in commitment to just, equal, and a democratic.
We also want to state that the progress of the joint EAC SADC summit outcomes by the appointment, and this is something that we will finalize, but there were proposals, if you remember, that we broaden the panel of facilitators, because it has largely been Uhuru alone. And there were proposals that this be broadened. Certain names did come up, which we will discuss briefly in the closed session. And SADC is also of the view that they would wish to add one more name to that panel. So I think I'll leave that to the closed session for a short conversation. We also want to recognize that the international community, including the United Nations Security Council, have been voicing support for this joint SADC-EAC summit that was held on 8th of February, and also lending support to the harmonization or merging of the Nairobi and Luanda processes, so that we have a more coherent position where there is sight of all issues. We wish to underscore that a military solution is not the way out to this conflict, and we need to work and embrace inclusive dialogue involving all stakeholders, and this should be pursued so that we find a lasting solution to the conflict. I wish to also bring to the notice of the ministers that Kenya continues to engage various stakeholders in the crisis as a means to opening opportunities for dialogue by all the parties to the conflict. And I wish to point out that not too long ago, His Excellency President William Ruto, in his capacity as the chairperson of the East African Community Summit, met with a high-level delegation from President Felix Tshisekedi, led by a member of Parliament and former Deputy Prime Minister Lambert Mende, as well as a delegation from the National Episcopal Conference of Congo and the Church of Christ in Congo to deliberate on the security situation in DRC. Once again, I want to really re-emphasize that the humanitarian situation in Goma and Bukavu has displaced many people, and they face grim conditions within the limited access of basic necessities, including food, water, shelter, and healthcare, due to main supply routes being cut off and the closure of the Goma and Kavumu International Airport and other major road supplies routes. However, we also want to commend efforts by UNICEF, which has been able to reach about 364,000 children and giving them support for clean water and sanitation. Once again, the President of Kenya has emphasized that Kenya is willing to work with the regional partners and the international community to offer humanitarian support to alleviate the suffering of the displaced civilians in the affected localities, while underlying the urgency of opening humanitarian corridors to facilitate the delivery of aid to the affected regions. We also emphasize the importance of having the member states of both the East African Community and SADC committing the financial resources required for the implementation of the roadmap activities for supporting peace and security and stability in the Eastern DRC.
Distinguished ministers, allow me to call the meeting to order. Meeting is singular. Presentation of the report of the...
Okay, thank you. All right, so
Seconded.
Yes.
And the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Republic of
Minister for Foreign Affairs, who could not make it to be.
First, let me take this opportunity on behalf of President William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, who is also the chair of the East African Community Summit, to express his appreciation for your being available so that we can have a very brief consultation today. This meeting is important because, as you are aware, the joint ministerial session, which was recommended on the 8th of February in Dar es Salaam, will take place in Harare on 16th and 17th. 16th, which is tomorrow, largely at the technical level, and 17th at the ministerial segment. Thereafter, our deliberations will form the basis of a report that will go to the heads of state of the EAC SADC joint session. I just want to maybe put the situation in perspective. One, we all want to recognize that the situation in DRC is dire, Eastern DRC. So far, it's estimated that there are over 7,000 civilian fatalities, and so far about 700,000 persons have been displaced. And this has led to a very serious humanitarian crisis in DRC, Eastern DRC. We also need to acknowledge that the continued fighting in Eastern DRC has the potential of spilling over into the neighboring countries and destabilizing the entire Great Lakes region and turning into a wider regional war if not addressed urgently. We note that the M23 occupation in southern Kivu has resulted in mass displacement of approximately 40,000 Congolese nationals fleeing to Burundi for refuge. Kenya will continue working closely with neighboring countries, regional blocs, and the international community in finding a lasting solution to the ongoing conflict in Eastern DRC for the prosperity and welfare of the Congolese nationals in the affected regions. Even as ministers, as the ministers received the report of the Chiefs of Defense Forces, we wish to draw the attention to the important issue of finalizing the task of forming the panel of facilitators. We should not spend too much time debating names. The situation is dire. We need to overcome this as ministers, and our heads of state are actually waiting for our recommendations. We can't keep on kicking the can down the road. We need to make some recommendations and have them to move forward to the next stage. So I would just say that please apply yourselves to this particular issue, and it is important that when we get to Harare, we can conclude on this matter, and the recommendations can go to the heads of state. This is important because we also want the support of the African Union on this matter, so that they can support through the Peace Fund the initiatives that are being undertaken. Finally, I think we should also apply ourselves to the fact that the Joint Secretariat, EAC and SADC, should be supported so that they crystallize on a technical team that will drive this process jointly. We should not leave it hanging, so that it's not ping pong. I think as ministers, it will be important for us to ensure that when we leave Harare, we are now very clear on the joint technical team of the secretariats, so that they move with this thing of ensuring that we are on track in the peace process. So with these remarks, I hope in a small way I've just opened up matters for thought as we discuss before and also while we receive the report of the Chiefs of Defence Forces. Once again, I want to thank you, ministers, and your delegations for being available at very short notice.
So they use the harvesting and some of the processing machineries they collected. And after this stage we are going to the area inventing.
Right now we are doing several research in this field. It's like
The result to traditional earth plant grow chambers as well. So when we are learning how to grow plants in this kind of environment, we can transfer totally the same growth environment to, for example, growing plants in a desert or a very difficult environment like tundra, where we are having limited amount of water or nutrition.
So how to design machineries which have a certain very precise isolation from the dust on the surface of the Mars and the Moon, and of course the temperature problem is. So we just give the instruction and the drone flies there, collects water from the lake or from the river, whatever is the target point, and equipped with this drone was developed by us, and also the communication protocol. These are very conventional drones. Guys, can this drone fly? The small one at least. Maybe we are too many people. So we are cooperating with them. But in this case, this is not a sprayer, this is a water sample collector, an automatic water sample collector, and we can identify the exact location where the water sample was collected with plants. And this one is just which is the multispectral. That's a multispectral camera, so it's not just the visible line, but more interesting spectrum of the electromagnetic field, and this is the conventional.
We are able to teach the students how to work on such a facility where they prepare different materials for market. So actually, I try to say that some of the seeds and the pollution materials are also coming from Kenya. So create such a natural environment. production.
All areas, and comes here from the animal farms, also from the parks and green waste areas, also from the dormitory kitchen waste, and we compost here and make fertilizer.
To reduce post-harvest losses, because some of the research is showing that in a global perspective, the sub-Saharan Africa, we have challenges with post-harvest losses, and also we are the one who have a lot of issues with food security. So if we can liaise or borrow knowledge from here, or if we can create channels where we have collaboration, and also maybe spearhead research in our own area. So as we seek to enhance our production, we also, so if we can liaise and maybe research and provide, actually what I'm doing, because they are dryers, what I'm really trying to do is to look for an easy way or an economical way that all our farmers, we can dry inputs so that our farmers can have those food, like you can store for tomorrow and the other day, instead of plant, eat, then again next time.
I say goodbye and wish you all the best. Very happy.
This policy is a government statement of intention. We are saying this is who we think our diaspora are. These are the things we want to do for our diaspora. These are the things we want to do with our diaspora. And this is where we want them to take us. It is also a commitment on our part to say that for us to say we have a prosperous diaspora, we have an engaged diaspora for a prosperous nation, what do we as the government and the people of Kenya have to do for those of us who live and work and study abroad? You've probably seen this house, we call it the Diaspora House, in a lot of our things, because it really is the unifying framework for how we work. We truly do believe that it starts with protecting the welfare and rights of Kenyans. So we protect, we engage, we empower, we prosper, always in that order. So this policy unpacks how do we intend to do that? What are the ways in which we are going to protect Kenyans now and over the next 20, 30, 40 years? In what ways are we going to engage them? In what ways are we going to empower our Kenyans in the diaspora, and in what ways are we going to ensure they prosper? It talks about the challenges that we currently have, but also looks into where the opportunities are. We've noticed, and we have started to put together some interventions, Your Excellency, around the fact that Kenyans in the diaspora now are increasingly becoming and running for political office. And I don't just mean President Obama, I mean many, many others. And that is a new area of engagement for us. And what are we going to do then with these people as they go into these spaces? So the policy is our statement of intent. The policy is also the document that we say hold us accountable against. But in many ways, the policy is also the story that we tell ourselves of who we are. We are saying as a government and as a people, this is who we are because this is who our diaspora are. And this is how we are going to behave. This is how we are going to respond to. This is how we are going to deal with our people, because this is who we are. When you read the document, you will find, beyond the many consultative processes that Ambassador Helen spoke about, you will find, if you are the High Commissioner of Ghana to Kenya, you will find elements that you find familiar. If you are the Irish ambassador to Kenya, there are elements that you're going to find familiar. If you are, yes, and I know Stephen Jackson is going to particularly be excited about that, particularly because your Minister for Diaspora is currently in Kenya. Yes. What do I mean? If you are the High Commissioner of India to Kenya, you're going to find elements that you find familiar. Why? We are a learning department. We have looked around and said, there are others who might have gone before us that have done some things right. If you are, my dear friend, the ambassador from the Philippines, I know you are going to find certain elements that are familiar because we've learned from what others have gone ahead of us and done. But we also know that every country has its own diaspora story because every migration journey is completely different. So, diasporians, we have put out our intention. We invite you to engage with this document again and again. We invite you to tell us where to go from here. I will tell you one of the places that we are going from here, apart from eating ugali, as Ambassador Helen said, one of the places that we are going from here is, now that we have a policy, is to move forward to a diaspora bill. Because this document sets up the framework for us now to create a law that puts together all the protections and administrative processes for our diaspora, including giving energy and impetus to electoral rights and the other rights, including protection of rights of property of our diaspora, and so on.
Let me thank Madam Roslyn, who has been very passionate in pushing the whole diaspora agenda. To be honest, even the ordinary Kenyan does not require to be told what diaspora means anymore. She has done a good job. And when we were launching our broader foreign policy, which is now a sessional paper, and the public participation process has also been launched by Parliament, we had said that one of the things we want to do is to make sure that Kenya's foreign and diaspora policy is not foreign to Kenyans. We want it to be owned by the people of Kenya. So I want to tell you that I'm a very proud cabinet secretary, that the whole element of demystifying issues around the diaspora have been done very well. Pongezi. To you and your entire team. I also want to thank Parliament, and I'm doing so because we are going to need them, especially at the next phase. When it comes to legislation, it's absolutely essential that Parliament works with you. And when they're represented here, and they listen to you, and they become part of this process, they will definitely enrich the legislative framework that is so important to anchor what we have been talking about, what we intend to do, and how we intend to do it. So, Parliament, I thank you for supporting us, but I also say, please don't tire, because we need you for the next very critical steps. I want to thank the partners who have supported the diaspora team and the entire framework of the foreign affairs for working with us systematically, not just verbally, but some of you have supported us in some of the workshops and some of the research that has gone into producing the document that is in front of you. And I want to say asante sana for giving us that support. And definitely, this is a moving target, so we will need your support constantly as we as we go forward. The other thing is, as we go forward, we may start having to focus. Are we sure that the remittances will always be on an upward trajectory? That's another question that we must answer. Collectively, are we sure that we shall see the growth that I've talked about from 4 billion to 5 billion? Are we sure it will continue that way? Or are we also now in a situation where we must now open our eyes to the fact that this very earthquake that I'm talking about could also affect the ability of our diaspora to be as supportive as they would want to be. Sometimes they want to, but maybe circumstances are going to have an impact, and that could call for policy shifts. Maybe the current generation of the diaspora still has strong linkage with their respective countries. What happens 5 generations from now? Will there be similar attachment in this changing global world with the diaspora, with their base? Or are we also going to see some adjustments? These are critical questions that I wanted to put before you, because you are men and women of intellect, that as we go forward, let us think broadly about some of these issues so that we can make Kenya a better place, but we can also provide opportunities for everybody, whether investment and others. And indeed, the ladies did talk about the bond that I referred to. We are talking both with the Treasury and other players so that we can get to the stage where we can also harness the resources of our diaspora more meaningfully, more positively. And I gave the example that if, for instance, we wanted to have some very critical infrastructure, I gave the example some time back of the Jomo Kenyatta Airport as an example. If we package it well, and we have a prospectus that makes a lot of sense, I can tell you the diaspora can fund and finance a new airport. If we want to continue being the key artery into the corridor, that is the 300 million people plus population of the East African community, we can work out, and the diaspora can do a proper dual carriageway, some sections tolled so that there's a return, and we can have a dual carriageway all the way to the Uganda border in Malaba and be able to open up the economies of that region and give more impetus to our growth. So there's a lot of potential.
I think a hearty clap is in order. Let's remain outstanding for the national anthem of Kenya and the EAC.
and our many partners. It's an exciting day for us. We are bringing this journey with us. To kick us off, I want at Kenyans in the diaspora, so karibu sana.
Your Excellency, the President Secretary, Madam Sami Diaspora. It's a great honor to stand before. This moment is a testament to our nation's remarkable contribution from Kenya's Diaspora Policy 2014 laid the foundation for the structural engagement.
Balozi Helen. Now we've walked this journey
to Nigeria. So there are those ones who mobile, we're empowering them if they want to remit money. We are looking at ways and means. As part of our introduction, we still want to...
And
to the diaspora, the truth is you cannot be ignored anymore. At all. In 2022, your remittances were about $4 billion US dollars. By the end of 2024, the remittances had hit 4.95 billion, basically 5 billion US dollars of remittances from the diaspora. You have surpassed our earnings from tea, from coffee, from tourism. There you are. I can give more and more. But what you're able to bring back to this country has definitely had a stabilizing effect. Kenya today is boasting of about 4.5 months cover of foreign reserves. That, I think, is close to about 10 billion US dollars in reserves. So your contribution is now very, very important in making sure that we have a stable financial system. And I can tell you, if you're an investor, that is one thing you look for. How stable is their financial system? So you as the diaspora are making a very, very significant contribution in stabilizing our economic situation. Is diplomacy a straight line anymore? I think in the last few months, we have now all learned that things can change so rapidly. You can get a tectonic shift in the whole environment within a very short time. Basically, an earthquake can hit. And it can alter a lot of things. We are now seeing that this kind of shift within the geopolitical arena has caused a lot of disruption. We are going to, all governments, both developed and middle income and developing governments, all have to look at their whole issues afresh. The health sector in Kenya and globally, especially for the global south, has just received a major shock. A serious one. We have our brothers and sisters in Kenya, for instance, who require ARV, medicine, and so forth. The government of Kenya would support to the tune of 60%, and we are relying on our partners to the tune of 40%. That's the Kenyan ratio, roughly, give or take a few percentage points. In some of the other countries, there's literally no local contribution. They're totally dependent on the international support. Now, we have reached a situation, what do we do? Do we let our citizens in all these countries perish because there has been an earthquake in the overall scenario? Or do we wake up to some realities and start re-engineering ourselves? Obviously, we will have to, because we have to save lives. Our constitution demands that every Kenyan must be entitled to health care, hence the word universal health care as we are pushing it. So some shocks are coming in. And it's within this framework that we shall need the innovation, the prowess of the diaspora to also help us deal with this challenge now that it's beginning to hit directly and hitting very hard. Within the Kenyan context, I can only say that we now must graduate from complaining about the universal health care to actually now saying, let us identify the specifics that ought to be corrected so that this universal health care can work. This should now be the debate. Because we have all seen it, that it is no longer, nobody is going to underwrite the health care of the people of Kenya. It has to be underwritten by Kenyans themselves. These are the harsh realities. And in so many other sectors, because, as I said, the earthquake has taken place. You can decide where the epicenter is, it's up to you. But the vibrations, the tremors are beginning to be felt far and wide. And they're going to be felt up to the smallest earning citizen in all our countries. So, what do we do? How does the diaspora work with us? How do we work with the diaspora so that we can fill in some of these challenges? We have been having a lot of conversations in our society that seem to take away the fundamental issues that we need to talk to. And we sometimes get immersed in trivialities. So today, let this be a moment when we can look at very solid issues and reflect on them and see what we can do together, working with the diaspora. I would like you to have well-organized special purpose vehicles set up by the diaspora. Well-organized special purpose vehicles. If we are talking of PPPs, public-private partnerships, it would be so good if within the diaspora framework, They are special purpose vehicles that can have a significant impact and partnership in some of these programs, so that our effort is not just scattered in little drops, but we can have our effort collated and put in very, very significant blocks that can alter the policy levels and the thinking that we have in different investment programs. Why? Why should we, in the Ministry of Trade or in the Ministry of Treasury, why should we gazette a special economic zone for our partners from Asia or from Europe, and we cannot gazette a special economic zone for our diaspora? To take up some serious manufacturing or to take up some serious innovative program and then use that as a launch pad for export. All these things can be done. It's only a question of us really pulling together. We are now seeing situations where the Kenyan diaspora are staging demonstrations against their own country in certain places. Rightly or wrongly so, but it's their right. But we are seeing this. I don't think that is where we want to go. I think we want to start working on a more organized approach to some of these things. A few days ago, on another trip, I was in Geneva. And I went to meet with the UN High Commission for Human Rights. And believe you me, even though sometimes we have bloody noses from our own local issues, where we punch each other and we don't look so good, but comparatively, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights still said that in spite of your bloody nose because of your local issues, you, Kenya, can still host a multi-country center for human rights in the region. Why do I bring this out? I bring this out because in Kenya, you are the media hub. In the entire region, there's nobody, no other sister state that has got the kind of media hub that you have, where people can speak freely. Take it seriously. Don't just throw it away. It's the reality. You in Kenya, as we speak to these things, in spite of the bloody noses we have locally because of punching each other, tell me another government in the region that faces the kind of litigation that the Kenya government faces in our judicial environment, and the same government loses several cases. Let us be realistic. It's a reality check. Because we keep on communicating, saying that we are the worst. You are not the worst. Even when some of our friends want to demonstrate, they don't demonstrate in their capitals, they come and demonstrate in Nairobi. For abrogations that they feel have happened in their home ground. But they demonstrate in Nairobi. Ask yourself the very fundamental question, why? Kwa nini? Mbona hawakwenda kucheza hiyo dansi kwao? Wamekuja kuicheza hapa Nairobi. So there are some issues which are good. And for this, we must say hats off to the Kenyans who participated in ensuring that we all got the 2010 Constitution, which has safeguarded our liberties. Some of you are in this hall. You participated. Let us defend that Constitution. And as we defend the Constitution, let us do it positively. Let us not cut our noses to spite our face. Let us work together, and there's so much potential. And ladies and gentlemen of the diaspora, I am here to tell you, you have a partner. You have a partner in this journey. We at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are going to work with you, so that the very clear and noble objectives of our Kenyans in different parts of the country will be recognized. When I went to Australia, I went to Brisbane. And I met some of the good Kenyans there. And as we were walking into the lift, into the Prince Charles Hospital in Brisbane, the lift door has a huge mural. Then, for a moment, a life-size mural. The person who was ushering me in is the one who was on the lift. His mural was on the lift. His image was on the lift. This is a Kenyan of high intellect working in that hospital, a researcher who had come from Kilifi, a malaria program and all this, Cambridge. And now he's in Australia and they are at the verge working with his counterparts in Australia. And I really wish it happens. They are on the verge of making a major breakthrough in the medical field, which, if it goes through, could easily put them on the list of those who could vie or who could be in competition for a Nobel Peace Prize in that area. We cross off. I went to West Virginia in the US, and there are Kenyan doctors working in a consortium with a few of the partners from Zimbabwe, where my sister stands out for. And they have actually taken over a pharmaceutical plant. And they are now beginning to manufacture medicine, and more so medicine that will help us deal with sickle cell anemia. And you know very well, in malaria-prone areas, sickle cell anemia becomes quite prevalent. But the cost can be prohibitive. And for the younger children, it can become very difficult if it is always in capsules. So they are also finding a way of converting this into medicine that can be palatable for even the infant. And I was telling them, once you are through with this process, it would be important that you become one of the key suppliers on the Kenyan scene, so that KEMSA and others can buy medicine from you and be able to deal with sickle cell challenges in the region. These are people in the diaspora. And you can name many others. You all have examples of your own. So let us now elevate our conversations to the next level.